Have never been clearer. I see what you're doing to me now. They lie, they steal, they fooled us. Deep down I probably knew that. I think I will be holding on to the one thing that I know is stronger.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another segment of the Healing Factor with Coach Melvie. And I am so glad to be here with you all. This is another one of my special shows. Again, all my shows are special, but this is a wonderful guest of mine. This is a sister of mine. We've known each other for like 10 years. And I mean, to see where we were then, the dreams and visions that we had then, and where we are now is completely, it blows my mind. I mean, I already knew that this woman was phenomenal just by listening to her. If I could just tell you everything that the talent that she has behind this beautiful face, you know, it would just blow you away. So to know where she is now just gives me butterflies in my stomach. And I'm so honored and so happy that she is here with me today. Everyone, let me welcome to the show, Kyra D. Lee. Kyra, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you, Coach. How have you been? It has been so long. It's so good to see you.
It has been a long time. We've come a long way from Google Chat.
Yes,
the dreams, the conversations. Oh my God, I laugh at it to this day about the things that we talked about. I'm like, we should be in jail because you know what they say, they want everything. And we had some real honest to goodness moments in those conversations. And I mean, where we just like let it rip. And then we think about it 5 minutes later. Oh Lord, what did I just say? They're gonna come for me. And we just bust out laughing. I'm like, we have work.
Telling the truth.
Been working and we over here. I mean, people thought I was crazy because sometimes I'll be over here chatting, doing my work, but I'm on the chair leaning over, laughing so hard and like, what is going on with you? So I'm so happy to have you here.
Absolutely.
And today's topic, we are going to be talking about healing women in leadership because this segment is about healing, period. But, you know, the segment is about, I talk about women. You know me, I'm all about women empowerment, women healing. And what you're going to talk about also is in women healing and leadership because it's something that we as women, sometimes we put ourselves on the back burner. I talk about this a lot too. So Kyra, tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you're doing.
Absolutely. So it's been a journey. It's been a really great journey. 2020 has been a game changer for the entire globe. We had COVID wreak havoc across the entire world. And so inside of that mission, a near and dear new position in my life was created in Black women worldwide. And with that tribe of sisters, with that global collaboration, we were able to bring to fruition International Black Women's Day in June, a celebration of Black women's history, Black women's reality, and exploring the celebrations at the intersection of race and gender. And it was really, really powerful. 7 different nations just coming together to acknowledge that there are differences in the way that Black women specifically are and are not celebrated in this space. In that pursuit, I found out the power of collaboration, building across, finding new ways to create power tables because we're not invited into every space. We're not welcome in every space. And sometimes my womanhood is celebrated, but not my Blackness. And sometimes my Blackness is celebrated, but not my womanhood. And so in that realization, there was a new form of the mission born. And in collaborations with my sisters and brothers in this new work, the International MLK League of Community Leaders was founded.
Okay.
established for the purpose of powerhouses bringing together their individual work in silos to start addressing the gaps, the people that have been left behind, whether it
Mhm.
is through the civil rights movement, the human rights movement, reproductive rights, all rights. There have been groups of folks that we simply did not have answers for, that we tolerate but did not welcome. And so
Mm.
my new work, my new seat, has given me global access and global responsibility for making sure that those gaps are addressed. And I'm loving it.
I love that. We were talking earlier before we went on live, I remember us having those conversations, and you said, I remember, and I can't quote you because you are so eloquent with your words, and that's the one thing I've always admired about you. She would come out with a sentence, and it's like, dang, how did she do that? But I knew what you were doing. I knew what you were talking about, and you were always one for the support of our Black community. You know, the uplifting, the empowerment of it. So I knew that there was going to come something from you because even though you were working in an HR position at the time, your mind was set on what it was you wanted to do, and you had the hunger, you had the passion for it. And when I look at it now, I'm like, she did it. She is not playing. I need to get my job done. What am I doing?
I love that. I love that. We got to take it serious. We got to take it serious.
We have to take it serious. So between between then and now, what were the steps that you took to get to that point?
Research was the beginning. Research
Mhm.
was the beginning. You know, in the middle of COVID, there was a lot of pain. City of Detroit was on fire. We were losing people left and right. I think in the first month before COVID was officially announced, I had 5 people die within the city of Detroit, and it was very painful.
Mhm.
So we got to work trying to figure out statistics. We got very involved in figuring out um, what resources were being affected.
Mhm.
And as the next year came along, we built a space, a table where we could speak freely. We utilized Zoom, we utilized Microsoft Teams, we utilized the internet to build these online virtual spaces where we could tell the truth. And things came up. Things came up from our folks from our African nations where, you know, we realized that there's propaganda currently. 2021, 2022, there's propaganda going on about the African American race back in the continent of Africa's nations and how we are represented, how our men and women are represented.
Mhm.
There is hate being introduced in our immigration process where folks who may or may not be Black presenting are being coached to check white from Nigeria or to check other from certain places that would give the African American experience more numbers.
Mhm.
And it became very visible that as we all sit down and just start telling our truths, there's some breakdowns here. There are some
Mhm.
systemic, legally documented breakdowns in the way that the Black and Brown experience in this country is documented and
Mhm.
measured and therefore serviced. And so the next step was, how do I reach to folks that can impact this? Now that
Mhm.
we've identified the problem, how do I folks like Coach Mel, like a Dr. Amina Ali, who
Mhm.
can speak to solutions, best practices that were already in the works? And I was in a pair of hoop shorts on the bottom and a t-shirt on top when a very good friend of mine called me and said, I need you to get on the Zoom call. And I said, okay. You know, I was working in HR remote at the time.
Mhm.
And she said, nope, put on a shirt and get on Zoom camera on. And it was a UN call. My life changed.
Mm.
I listened to the project. I listened to the way that these women spoke about
Mhm.
the problem and the solution. I listened about policy and the way that they were speaking truth to power. And I was inspired. And unlike other spaces where working together side by side with women, sometimes there's policing, sometimes there's bullying and othering. Who does this new girl think she is with these ideas and thoughts, speaking out unapologetically? Who does she think she is to be
Mhm.
so passionate in this new space? You need to sit back. You know, sometimes you're told to be quiet, to be small, to
Exactly.
shrink.
Mhm.
They didn't do that to me. They didn't do that to me. This group of women was so sure of why they were here and whose they were that my passion and my talent and my presence didn't bother anyone at all. It was
Mhm.
welcome instantly. And we've never looked back. And so from there, we continued to talk about our purpose across conversation after conversation with
Mhm.
community organizer. And
Okay.
folks bought in. They saw the value, they understood. And more importantly, we discovered that these women were used to feeling alone.
Mm.
We are taught that our problems are our own, that
Mhm.
in the US or in specifically Detroit, specifically Chicago, specifically the Bay Area, you are going through this alone and therefore you will suffer alone. You should talk to your own because nobody outside of you cares about you. And that's not true. And I learned that quickly in this space.
Mhm. Wow.
It was powerful. It was very, very powerful. And from that sharing, from that light bulb coming on, a gap was filled called community.
Okay.
And they were welcoming. And so we were able to work with the lights of Ambassador Aisha Bello, awarded humanitarian out of Kaduna State, Nigeria. And we could speak to her vulnerable peoples and the Girl Child program that was able to educate over 50 different participants in agriculture. Women who were used for labor were now given the education to understand how to grow crops year after year, which
Mhm.
speaks directly to independence
Mhm.
in the
Mhm.
villages that we're activating. We were able to teach technology. We were able to award a holiday of celebration, not because women are not celebrated in spaces, but we're
Mhm.
not celebrated as equals. We're not
Yes.
invited to the table as equals. So this was the space that started it all.
Mm.
And most recently, we got into good trouble back here in the States. I was called by my very good friend.
I love how you say that.
We got back into good trouble. I was called back by my very good friend, Bishop Herman Starks, and he is always in the midst of moving and shaking in the Michigan space. And he brought to me some challenges that my brothers and sisters in Michigan were still having, myself having moved to the state of California.
Mhm.
And so now, after listening to the problem, we have built another table. And at this MLK League table sits Reverend Robert Olive, immensely honored and respected community builder, elected president of the SCLC Detroit. We have Pastor Barry Randolph of the Church of Messiah Detroit, highly respected humanitarian, awarded humanitarian of the year by the state of Michigan, who has at least 10, 12, 14 different programs serving Venezuelan refugees who are finding their way to the Midwest due to political impact, and domestic violence survivors who now have a clinic within the church walls, and championing our
Mhm.
faith-based centers as community centers.
Mhm.
We
That is
have
amazing.
It is. It's fantastic. Reverend Kevin Harris is a leader for the Nazarene Missionary Baptist Church family, actively going after prison reform and criminal justice reform. And what does it look like to stop inviting folks of color into bondage? And what does it look like to support folks that have served time, have learned within this system, and now are
Mhm.
ready to return to citizenship? What does it
Mhm.
look like to welcome them home in a healthy way after a traumatic learning experience and
Mhm.
or undue bondage within our prison system? And I
Mm.
am honored to be working with these people in
So
this
this is a way to end is it
recidivism.
that's
Mhm.
it.
Yes, ma'am. Recidivism is a huge part of our mission in stopping the wheel. In stopping the wheel. You
Okay.
don't get to lock folks up for marijuana possession, only to roll out an entire legalization of marijuana, only to have them making the packaging that the dispensary is using while still incarcerated. You have
Mm.
to make it make sense. You have to
That
make it make
is
sense.
true. That is true. Wow, that's a lot of research done. I love that. Honey, you have went from one spectrum to the next, and you have pulled it all out. I mean, you've tapped into so many areas that I even know for a fact. I have several people that I know from the G100 that I used to be a part of that actually work in prison reform, recidivism for women. Someone I just had a conversation with today, she's talking about agriculture. She mentioned that, and I was like, oh, you need to be listening to this live today because I'm going to be talking about Kyra. I know that was one of the topics we talked about last week. I'm like, I remember that. So I literally am reaching out to a lot of my friends, colleagues from the G100, as well as, those who I know that are still from our hometown of Michigan, and let them know, okay, this is coming home to you guys. Let's get this. Let's work on this together. And as much as I know what Michigan wants to try to do. We've been working on turnaround for a long time, not just in prison reform, but just life, itself. We want to, and I don't know what the ratio is as far as the Black community to any other racial, community, but from where I'm standing, it's a lot, and we need to have that coming together of the visions of what you just spoke on, because I mean, just think if this goes, not just the areas that you spoke on, Michigan, Liberia, California, and did you give one more, or was it those three?
The Bay Area and Washington, D.C., yes.
And Washington, D.C. So, just think if we were to capture this into all the states. This is huge. This is not just a step in the mud and step out of the mud. This is huge. And this, if you haven't listened, she mentioned Liberia. She's mentioned some countries now. I mean, listen. So I really am glad that you and I linked up for this. I'm glad I became a part of it, because I had been asking and praying and seeking, because I know what my vision is for women, and that's in stone. But I also said, okay, well, how is this gonna, what else can it do? What is it supposed to do? Because I didn't want to be the one that I wanted to be led. I wanted Source to show me what's the path. And I need to be open to not just taking the controls. I need the universe to be like, okay, this way, go this way. Don't go your way, go this way. Okay. So when you spoke on it, of course, the flesh is like, the human side is like, you're nervous, and nerves, fear comes out. Let's just call it what it is. It's fear.
Yes.
And I'm like, but this is a good thing, Mel. It is. So one half of you is flipping, going, yes, another half, but wait a minute, I don't know. Why are you worried? Why are you worried, Mel? So I jumped in 2 feet first. And I'm glad I did, because listening to everyone, and I'm still, trying to figure out where's the niche in. I know it's going to fit in. I just don't know where. And sometimes we all need to just calm down and just be ready for when it comes, because it's coming. So give us a little bit more about the MLK program, the League of Black Community Leaders.
Absolutely. So the MLK League of Community Leaders is designed for our competitive folk, for our folks that were accused of talking too much in school, our disruptors, our champions. And the purpose of the league is to replace competition with collaboration. A lot of times we have individual silos that work to have impact, and we do. We impact a couple thousand folks within our local network, but when we try to scale, the reach stops. And on the flip side, we have these historic champions in the NAACP, SCLC, NAN, and others who have done so much work in the past, and yet are having the complication of connecting with this generation. They're not turning the corner in the same way. And so as our champions age and start to need us, and as we in the middle are also responsible for passing this torch to a powerful group of Gen Z and Gen Ayers, we have to start figuring out how to teach the language of advocacy differently. What does it look like to show up for yourself differently? You, Coach, have always inspired me in that space. What does it look like to say enough is enough? I'm serious. What does it look like to be unsure and say, I am standing up for myself this time. I am standing up for myself this time. And so in our mission, the MLK League is taking on that challenge. What does it look like to be data-driven, not just saying things? It feels like Black and brown men are under attack. It feels like violence is an urban issue. Let's see. And to see, you have to have the due diligence of doing your own research. So in the first place, we're establishing chapters in all communities. So that's my first call to action here on this conversation. Coach Mel has joined our ranks as a fierce advocate in the women's empowerment and general leadership space. So I challenge anyone listening in, join us at mlkleague.org. We meet every Tuesday, and we are hearing from the people. We are not driving agenda. We are receiving data and then pairing folks in the community with community solutions. The second offering that we have is almost a directory, a resource directory for folks that are able to utilize services. So again, that is mlkleague.org, mlkleague.org. And in that space, you will find a join button, become a member. The purpose of this mission is to share resources. When we talk about power, we talk about resources. A lot of times your Bank of Americas, your Wells Fargos, your Comerica banks will allocate all sorts of funding for the sake of being responsible community partners. But then the distributor of that funding will say things like, but I don't have anyone to get it to. I have $2 million in domestic violence support resources. If only I could find $2 million worth of women to support. We've got you. Let's make that simple for you. Come here. Secondly, right, in addressing and deconstructing violence, we have to talk about the word you just mentioned, which is fear. Fear and pain. At the center of violence is fear and pain. And we use fear and pain to seek power.
True.
We get hurt, right? Everyone has been hurt. You get down, you crumble into the rawest form of yourself. And then that diamond, after that pressure, becomes something other. You are no longer what deconstructed. You become something harder, something very focused, and something that is built of new material. And that person starts to seek control over what previously harmed them.
True.
That's the psychology, right? We're trying to create a healthy outlet for that, for the people that have been harmed by the reality, who are now seeking control over the reality. Come here. Come here and take control over your reality in a team environment where you're seeking control can be healthy. Because actually, in a silo, right, you end up with a school shooting. When what we needed to talk about was bullying and pain and fear. But the way it comes out as an individual is a school shooting, right? Or I have no control over my finances. I have no control over the next time I'm going to be hired. I have a felony on my record. So I go home and beat my partner because fear of economic poverty, pain because I am not respected. Therefore, I seek control over my environment and assert control over someone I consider weaker than me. Address the fear and pain, remove the agenda for violence. Sometimes. The third place that we show up is mental health, because inside of mental health, we're no longer talking about logic and rationale, folks that can process in the absence of fear and pain what a good decision looks like. So we need help. We need resources. We don't need police. We need mental health professionals. And so we want a directory of those available resources for every territory that we serve. Who do you call instead of the police? Because you don't want to call the police for this, but 911 is something we all know about. We don't know 248 such and such and such and such to get to the mental professional that needs to arrive in an emergency crisis situation. What would it look like to be as aware of that resource as 911, MLK League?
I love it. I love this.
And then finally, what does it look like to comb through all of this old English and create a legal system that we can understand, to partner with elected officials and actually create laws that are written in a language for the people to understand their rights? What would it look like to look at the Constitution as it is and roll out federal and state legislature that supports current need? And so that is one of our missions as well, is to translate all of this data and all of this need and all of this funding into a legal reality where it can be advocated for in courts and on the street. What does it look like for those two languages to match? So I'm very, very proud of this work. I'm very excited.
I love it. I love everything you're speaking about. Can you give us a little bit of information about the agricultural side?
Absolutely. So environmental justice has to be a part of what we're discussing when we talk about community leadership And will we
Mhm.
talk about building a better future? Because at the
Mhm.
end of the day, the common denominator for every human being born is that our environment globally is changing. And it's
Okay.
changing in a way that in our lifetime, our surroundings will not support a lifestyle that feels comfortable to humans. Global warming, air quality, water quality, food resourcing, and so on. We, in
Mhm.
the background of all of this destruction, have ran ourselves into a global environmental problem. On the ground level, what does that feel like? Where your new highway is put, has demographics it will always affect if nothing
Mhm.
changes, and it has demographics that it will never touch. There is no such thing as a historic white Wall Street being demolished and a new freeway built through the middle of white wealth. It's not something you experience. Lake
True.
cities, there is no such thing as LA or Chicago or New York City becoming a lake city like so many other Black Wall Streets. And we can do our research about that topic. There's no
Mhm.
such thing as indigenous folks that have been here for thousands of years before anyone decided to sail this way, being given land, assigned land over here, right, to now
Mhm.
live on when all of this once belonged. And um, the city services or municipal services that are supported in the now U.S. territory extending to these various reservations. The living situation is completely different. And so,
Mhm.
in that, your pipelines, your oil drilling, your air quality due to smog, your brand new chemical plant gets zoned for some environments and not others.
Okay.
And so those demographics start experiencing health disparities like fibroids, like asthma, like poor nutrition, doing prenatal care, and so on. And so now, generationally, on the DNA level, our environment starts to impact our reality.
Hmm.
We have champions by the name of Nora Chapman and others that lift this up and specialize in this work. Do you know whether the soil in your backyard is actually good for urban agriculture? Have you tested your soil quality for lead and hard minerals? Because Black folks like to think, oh well, I'm being healthy. I'm going to go out back. I'm going to grow my thyme and my rosemary and my peppers. But what are you growing them in? And what are you watering them with? And what are you ingesting now that
Mhm.
you're growing in your backyard versus buying from Kroger? Do you know? Do you know?
Wow.
Because healthy is a system. It is not a choice. It's not an individual decision. It is a luxury and it is financial and it is environmental. So our
Mhm.
environmental justice department and or mission deals with that. Once folks want to tap into better resources, once we get past the school lunches and we get past individual families having to go hungry, because that's a
Mhm.
ridiculous problem to have when we have grocery stores throwing out trillions of dollars of food a year.
Agree.
What does it look like for us to be able to build our own system for food and water? In the
Hmm.
wake of the Flint water crisis, where yesterday I was fine when I got into the shower, and today poison is raining out of my faucet systems. What
Mhm.
does it look like to have control over my environment after the fear and pain caused by the powers that be? And these are the things that we want you to come aboard and talk about. These are the resources that I need subject matter experts that are already passionate about environmental justice to come
Mhm.
aboard and speak to. Get in the same room and be brilliant together so that we can start documenting next steps.
I love that. This, I don't know who's all listening. And if you have not gotten to if you weren't here in the beginning, then you need to be listening to the replay because this is impactful to all of our communities. This is something that we all need to take part of. I don't know how, even if you're just helping to move resources from one space to another, even if it's just as an ambassador to help recruit the message out here, to get it out here to more people throughout the country and beyond, whoever you know how to reach. I can't express how important it is. I can't, it's just vocally, she's the person that you would go talk to. Kyra is the one you talk to because she is boots on the ground in this, and she has been boots on the ground. um as a matter of fact, you were just What was the nomination that you just received? Literally.
Oh, I was just appointed chairwoman of this movement earlier this month. I'm very, very honored by my team of colleagues and do receive the honor with great commitment to the role. We were also just awarded by the UN Women's League on a call for the Federation of International Gender and Human Rights, again at the helm of Dr. Amina Ali, who streamed our conversation about violence as a pretext to tyranny. What does it look like when you are approaching tyranny? And what does violence implicate in that road to tyranny, with this being an election year, with the US being under extreme scrutiny in the international space? Not the government, the US, us, the people. You know, when we get down to the idea of our own housekeeping, what does it look like when you have two candidates that are generally not supported by the majority of their followers? Two. We have two choices, whether you are Republican, Independent, or Democrat, where an entire new movement of voting undecided, voting against or anti, not for anyone, but against both, is becoming a thing. In the wake of Gaza, in the wake of the 2024 election, what does it look like when the general public only voted 56% of the time in the first place and now are generally disappointed in the choices that they're being given? What does that look like? We have an entire
go down anyway.
And what do you do after? Because we all have to go to work, right?
Exactly.
Everyone here has to go to work. And so what's interesting about going to work is that you are always being handed other people's decisions, right? We say that's out of my pay grade, that's over my pay grade. Someone above me decided my choices for me, knowing that you always have a choice.
Right.
And so what do you do when the powers that be implement something you may or may not agree with? How are you resilient inside of that understanding? What is your next step when the ballot initiative that you put all your time and energy behind doesn't pass the first time? Do you fold? Do you appeal? Do you do better? Do you try harder? What does it look like to get back in the ring after you lose a round? Do you realize that this is a marathon and not a sprint? Do you understand the difference between a battle and a war? Are you up for defeat and resilience all the way to victory? Because victory is a process. It's not something you just come out the gate swinging as a toddler and you land in the ring with Muhammad Ali. You have to work toward victory. And that is the process that we're in. And we're looking for folks that not only understand that, but are up for that.
I love it. Oh gosh, that's powerful. And that's a way of life, period, not just in the political arena. That's everything that you do, whether it's work, whether it's family, whether it's relationship, community. That particular statement that you just made taps into everything, because you have to sit back and question yourself. What am I in it for? Why am I in it? Am I just going to hit it and quit it? Am I just going to, like you said, give up and get out of the ring? How passionate are you about what it is? So, if you step into this arena of what we're doing now, you really need to know, is it for personal reasons? It should be on some level, but at the same time, if you don't succeed, are you going to give up on the whole of the message? And I think that's very, very important. I love it. I love this. Well, you know what? This has been amazing. This is the main reason I really wanted us to have this conversation, because I really wanted to put this out here about the MLK League of Community Leaders, because all of us in our own right, we are a community leader. Just because we aren't in a political office, just because we aren't holding a title, does not mean you are not a leader in your community. If you see there's some things in your community that you don't like, are you doing anything about it? Or are you just sitting by the wayside and letting it happen to you and for you? Your voice counts. Your opinion matters. So you should take a step and do what it is. You may not be the one that steps up to the podium to say a word or give a speech or encouragement, but you are there in support. And those who are at the forefront, they still need your support. It's just like in the battle of an army. You have those at the forefront actually in the war, in the battle, but you have those also in the background standing in the gap for them, helping support and encourage them so they don't give up, because we all are in this together. And I believe that I was led to be a part of this. You know, we're all on a different journey. Everything that we join for a purpose, a passion, and then it's a season as well. But you know what? In the experience of it all, it helps the world continually go around. It helps us evolve. It helps the next generation to grow and find their own voice. It helps us all in some way. You know, we never want to give up on our next generation. It's easy to say they're hard-headed, they yell and they scream, they don't listen. But if we really sit back and listen to the young generation, the A's and the Z's, if we really listen to them, they're telling us what they really are trying to, what's really going on. We need to just listen. They have no other outlet but to yell, but to go out and do the things that they do. Why are they doing it? Not because they're just mad or they're crazy or whatever we want to call it. It's easy to say that, but what have you done to help your community? Because at the end of the day, when we, as the older generation, take our last breath, they're here. They have to do this. You can say, I don't care. But at the end of the day, is that really the truth? So I do believe in this. I do believe in what you're doing. And thank you so much for coming on. And if there's anything that you want to share with everyone, or encouragement or information that you want to share, I could put in another banner. Please do, Kyra.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think as we close this conversation, we started with the idea of healing women in leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about a lot of topics, but one thing I want to specifically state is that we aren't looking in this work for folks that are experienced or necessarily elected. I want everyone to think about how you got here. I want to go all the way back. I want to go all the way back to being born, right? Each of us was selected to become a human in the first place. You were elected into a position of being, right? Because all of the material necessary to create life does not create life. So you sitting here listening, you walking around breathing is your first election. You were elected to exist. Your second election was internet. I say this all the time. We talk about global spaces, and some of us have traveled overseas and some of us have not. The internet divide is a direct, measurable indicator in your privilege. If you are able to watch this, if you are able to tap into Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, you are in a different bracket than millions of people across the world. Use your access to information to change the realities that you don't like, because you are more informed than folks without internet. And there are millions of people that do not have access to this program today. Third, you have resources to complain about. No one watching this podcast has nothing. We all have something, and we may not have enough. How do we turn something into more? How do we change and pivot our perspective into something of power? We don't have enough yet, but we have more than nothing. So what was the process to getting some? And how do I extend that process into having more? And then finally, how do I land in enough? Because we're discouraged at times. We are people that sit back and think about how things can be better often. This new generation is not lying or dreaming or depressed or anxious for no reason. They are sitting in the midst of, I have some, but not enough. 3 is not 5. 5 is not 10. If I need 10, how do I succeed with 3? Collaboration is the only answer to lack. Together, you have enough always. Together, you have enough power. Together, you have enough influence. Together, you have enough resources. Together, you have enough knowledge. What you lack in an individual space, you will correct in a collaborative space. And what tears that down for women a lot is competition. What tears that down for men a lot is competition. Cute fact. And I'm sorry, brothers, it's just the truth. 88% of the violence that exists right now is committed by a male. 88%. So when we talk about addressing violence in all of its forms, we do have to speak to our male counterparts about what is going on, because 88% of the violence is housed within you all. That's not blame. That's a fact. And that fact is rooted in figuring out pain and fear.
Mhm.
I hope my ladies are listening. So now that we have identified that fact, we have an informed responsibility. What does it look like? What does it look like to stop pain and fear at the root? What does it look like to stop pain and fear at the root? We have a call on Zoom, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. MLK League meets on Zoom because our warriors are busy. They are at work, at second jobs. They are driving home from picking up the kids. They are driving home from taking care of parents or dropping off mail to a friend. We are the people that the nucleus of the village depends on. You are who I want to see on Tuesday. You are who I want to see on Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go to my page, Kyra D. Lee. Go to the International MLK League of Community Leaders on Facebook and join. Our membership is 100% tax deductible, and it is only $30 a year. For those of you that can't afford it, we have our global application for scholarship because we do not want any barriers of entry. It is important that you participate. It is important that you participate. We are bringing together resources for solutions. And the complaining that we all feel is valid. But what is more valid is that you can impact the solution. And I challenge you to do so. So when we talk about the people that we're taking care of, the people that call us every day because they're not sure what their next step is, we have a responsibility to educate. And if I don't have the answer, let me get you to the table that does. And if the tables that already exist are not giving up the information, are not giving us the relationship, will not call the senator and say, hey, this is what's going on in my district, will not call the mayor and say, hey, you are locking Black and brown folks out of this conversation, then flip that table and build your own. And for the last 2 years, we have said it. Now, will you get on board when the work was done for you? The table is built and you are welcome. Everyone, regardless of race, creed, gender, location, no barriers, except you have to be solution-based. You must be solution-based in this space. You do not have to possess the answer, but you have to have the heart to listen and the will to execute, and we will teach you how. So that is my final ask in this space. I want to thank Coach Mel so much for this powerful conversation. And I am challenging women specifically. All my brothers, you are welcome. Stand up, come. In our leadership, we have an immense menu of services for leadership that we can sit on in terms of communities, volunteering, and we have a major event coming up June 14th through the 16th in Detroit, Michigan. So please save that date. June 14th through the 16th, we have a major 3-day event. For everyone that is available, go to Detroit. The MLK Reach Conference is our inaugural kickoff for the U.S. mission of this effort. What does that mean? There are requirements. And on March 11th, the MLK League's U.S. membership met the requirement for the first U.S. charter in history. Imagine being on the ground floor when the NAACP was founded. This first class in 2024 is our founding class. Be a part of history. Come aboard, be a part of history, be a part of the most cooperative collective of community leaders in history. No one is being asked to abandon your current organizations or post. Bring them with you. Come here and let's do this work together across views, across beliefs, across gender identities, across race. This is the Get It Done team. And we want everyone on board. So again, June 14th through the 16th, early bird tickets will go up top of April, be in the building. We have a special guest list that is out of control that will be reassigning power to these conversations. We have 10 action-packed panel discussions that I want you all to participate in. And we are pulling from both the known list of influencers and community leaders that may be super powerful, but not known. This is an opportunity to amplify voices, and I need voices to amplify. So again, www.mlkleague.org. Sign up, get involved, reach out to Coach Mel, who will be hosting a chapter that will be founding soon. And at the moment, Michigan, you're next. I'm looking for this last group of passionate Michigan leaders to register this week so we can get your charter approved and moved on to the next state. We are rolling out. Liberia, we see you. We are looking forward to getting on a call next week with you and your leadership. I thank Reverend Solomon for his diligent support and service of the mission. We are getting this done. I want to thank Dr. Amina Ali. We have a closing talk for her UN week that she is hosting. This woman is hosting a week of UN approved and streamed discussions. And I am very honored to be sitting in that space on Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for closing remarks about how to address these issues. Closing remarks about how to address these issues. So again, mlkleague.org, sign up. On Monday at 11 a.m., we will be hosted by the UN to discuss this mission. And on Tuesday, we are asking all of you at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to tune in, to log on, give your thoughts, and tell us about your service so we can list those resources for your local community on the ground. This is organizing at a whole new level with data and tech behind it, and we cannot fail together. So I'm very, very excited to see you all on Tuesday for new members and on Monday's call with the UN because the MLK League went global, you all, and we're doing this work. So I'm extremely, extremely honored and excited.
Yes, 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 and yes. If you guys did not get that, please do not hesitate to inbox me, check out my Facebook page, or go to Kyra's page, Kyra D. Lee, and one of us will get you the information that you need. Again, go back if you didn't get to see the beginning of this podcast. Please listen to it from the very beginning so you can get all the information, and do not hesitate to inbox either one of us to get the information that you need as well. Tuesday's meeting, when it comes up, you will be given a Zoom link at the time right before the meeting is starting. So you will get that information, but all of you, whoever wants to be a part of it, please inbox us so we can make sure that you get that link and contact us. And in the meantime, let's do this. Let's do this as a community. Let's do it together, because together we are a force.
Absolutely.
Kyra, I can't say thank you enough for coming on to the show and sharing your information and empowering a global community. This is so needed for now. This has been needed for so long. And I'm glad that us as a people, we as a people are starting to really get geared up to really just do more things. And I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I'm actually, on one side, I'm sad that it did happen, but I'm actually glad that a lot of the things that took place happened. And I know everything happens in divine order, but I believe that had it not happened, we wouldn't be in the spaces that we are now to start to make the changes that we need to do for a better world. So absolutely. I want to say thank you. And everyone, thank you so much for joining us again for another episode of The Healing Factor. My name is Coach Melvie, and I will love to see you the next time I have. And I don't know when that's going to be because I haven't had another guest yet, but I do have one in mind. I just told her today she's going to be on the show. And she's also one person her name is Judith Burnett. And Kyra, I'm going to hook you up with her because she's the one that spoke about the agriculture side. So I did mention her, and I told her, be sure that you're listening to the podcast. So I'm pretty sure she's on here listening because I see about 3 to 4 people jumping on and off. But I'm pretty sure she's going to be contacting you because I did give her the information. And she's probably going to be on the next call for next Tuesday as well. So again, with that being said, I love you all. We're going to close out the show today. Take care. Be blessed. and be healed more than anything. All right. Good night, everyone. And let's end this stream. Here we go.